I was on the 2 most popular shows on TV for 20 years. I mean, that was actually said to my face. You're a Jew. You know, when you hear police say things to you like, oh, we didn't investigate because you're a Jew. I'm so proud of being Israeli. But Israel really did, in a very literal way, save my life.
Well, joining me now is an actress best known for her unforgettable role as DA Casey Novak on Law & Order Special Victims Unit. She was also Special Agent Abigail Boren on NCIS, and she had a recurring role on Suits. She's built a career that combines talent, intelligence, and heart, and she moved to Israel and is a powerful voice for this country. Welcome, Diane Neal.
Thank you very much. That was like the kindest intro of all time.
Oh, at the very least.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, there's no like itinerant hobo, you know, any of the other stuff smells weird. You know?
No, we didn't say any of that. We cut that out.
It's good. Thank you.
So you made Aliyah in 2023.
I did.
So we can still say welcome to Israel.
No, it is because I happened to be gone for most of it, like, which was such a bummer. But again, yeah, so made Aliyah, right? It was great. And then you go home to like finish packing everything up and get it on the shipping container. And then a week later, the least problem of October 7th, but October 7th happened. And then everything was canceled. And then it actually ended up being a blessing because exactly a month later, my mom was diagnosed with incurable cancer. And so it was great to be back in the States so I could be with her. So I was with her for the last year and a half. So I feel like Aliyah just started now. Like I've been back 6 months and I'm like, all right.
So let's talk about what inspired that move.
So for the longest time, I always knew that I'd end up here because, you know, you just know. There's something about it that you feel in your bones. And I've been really fortunate to like live all over the world and be everywhere. But when I first came here in 99, I knew there's something when you're Jewish, you feel it, and again, forgive my raspy voice, guys, you feel it in the soil, right? You feel it that second you land. You feel the connection to everyone you've ever been related to for the last few thousand years. And you feel their desire to be back here. And so ever since then, I was like, okay, I'm definitely gonna go back. In 2021, during like peak COVID, my father died. Me too. He was a funny bastard. He was a real federal attorney, and he was not Jewish. He's like a giant Southern, you know, one of these kind of guys, right? Like huge football playing, you know, Diane, you didn't win that case, you know, every morning after.
I'm a big fan, I'm sure.
Yes, oh my gosh. And it was fun. We got to, in my second season, they built a courtroom for me. And anyone that's older will know this. They bought for me the Night Court set, which was this TV show, which was hilarious. And so then they named the courtroom after my dad, which was pretty cool. And so anyway, he passed away really suddenly, and my parents had been married for 54 years. And Mom got wicked depressed. And it was one of those things where we couldn't even have a funeral. It had to be over Zoom. And, you know, since my dad's side was like Scottish, quite amusing unintentionally that like he always wanted a piper, like a bagpiper.
Oh, the bagpipe.
Yes, which ended up being just a dude in his living room, dressed up, walking back and forth in front of his empty fireplace. Wow. You know, yeah, it was like we were all dying, like trying not to laugh because it was ridiculous. You know, it's just a little sad. But my mom got really depressed, and because they had canceled all the flights because of Omicron, I couldn't get to Florida. Of course, like all good Jews, they retired to Florida. Right. And when I got there, she was so sad and depressed. And my mom was a math professor and a really famous genealogist. And actually, I think she might be the biggest contributor to Jewish Gen, you know, the site of all time. Wow. She's amazing. And I've never seen her like that. And so one of my friends suggested getting credit, Sadia Bendelstein, credit to you, in 5 towns, which everyone like in the city will know. And he said, why don't you reach out to Nefesh B'Nefesh and start the process now? And so I said, Mom, hey, come on, woman. one last adventure. Let's go. You into this? And she started to get really excited, and she brightened up, and then we would have fun getting everything, even from like the apostilles, right? It was this whole process.
All the bureaucracy.
All the bureaucracy, but it was fun for her. It was something to do that had a goal, right? And then through some insane circumstances in my own life, you know how life is completely out of your control so often. As I like to say from the Tom Cruise movie with Nicole Kidman, Days of Thunder.
Yes, great movie.
Yes, control is an illusion, Cole. Sorry, that was my worst impression ever. But one day I had no choice. It was either physically be harmed or jump on the next flight somewhere.
You're talking about anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I used every last airline mile point that I had, and within 24 hours, I got on a flight here. So my process had already started, but it wasn't finished. And everyone here took care of me. And it was wild. Like at the time, like nobody cared. Nobody knew who I was. Like it was the same as they do for everyone else. So Nefesh B'Nefesh and the Jewish Agency and everyone else. But it was weird because I couldn't work. So all I did was like charity work. And oh my gosh, that first Hanukkah, it was wild because, there were all these Ukrainian immigrants and Ethiopian and so, and Russian. And so since I didn't have anyone here and like nothing to do, this congregation that I was helping out, they were like, hey, do you mind like driving a giant bus around and delivering presents and things like that? I was like, oh yeah, sure. Like a 22-foot bus with like no rear view, anything, no nav system. I was like, just basically like me, especially in like some of the smaller towns like up north, just screaming the whole time. You're like, you're trying not to murder people. But
pretty meaningful.
It was the greatest.
And so what's it been like in Israel living here, particularly in wartime?
When I was leaving on the flight to come back here, and my mom only has a couple of weeks left to live, and she was so funny. You know how Jewish moms are, they can get quite dramatic. And so she was like Jesse, I give my David to Israel, go, start your life. Like it was one, I'm like, Mom, yeah.
That's a send-off.
Yeah, it was quite a send-off. I'm like, I don't really think I'm as good as David, but, and definitely less cheaty. But poor David, like he was such a good guy, and then, Uzziah.
We're in his city right now.
We are, but I'm like, really? Did you have to send Uzziah back out? I have to say, the one thing that like the Tanakh makes me feel better about is that like everyone was a hot mess.
Okay.
Right? For the sake, Jonah's like, maybe I'll kill myself because they all repented. I'm like, I feel better about myself in so many different ways. So do you ever feel that way?
I hear you.
Yeah,
it's a good message coming up for Rosh Hashanah.
It is, right? It really is. You're like, it's okay. So,
was it scary to be here during a war?
No.
I mean, it must have been a completely new experience.
No, no, it wasn't. And I feel so prepared to be here. And I'm really grateful to Hashem, because all the things that have built up in my life, like I'm very, it's coming up. I was downtown in 9/11, which was a horror show. Before that, I lived through, I lived in Asia, and I lived through 15 earthquakes in different countries. They were all above 7.0 that killed tens of thousands of people. Horrible car accidents. I was in a plane crash that killed a lot of people. I mean, you name it. You name it. So I'm like, are you kidding? I'm a mod, and I'm fine. Yeah. Like it was so weird, even during the Iranian thing. And I studied a lot of, at the Kennedy School at Harvard, there's a specialty group called the Belfer Center for Intelligence. And so we studied a lot of national defense strategy and policy. Hilariously, this was all before I came to Israel. My specialty is Natanz and the Iranian nuclear program. Yeah.
So you had insight.
A lot of insight about what was going on and like the size of the missiles and the damage they can do. Like I'm more concerned now because of the cluster munitions that they're sending out, which are a lot more dangerous. But So it was like an inevitable thing that we were going to have to go in and do something. But so the missiles that they were sending and giving to the Houthis and the ones they have, they're huge. Like, people don't realize they're 11 meters high and usually like 6,000, which I thought was really bizarre that everyone outside of Israel was saying, oh, don't you dare drop those 2,000-pound bunker busters. And I'm like, really? How about these bad boys that are being sent? And this is going to sound really crazy, but as evidence, though, by the great system that Israel's been put in place, aside from the Iron Dome, because that was incredibly hard to keep up with the number of missiles that were coming in. But the Mamads and the Meglats are so incredibly well done.
These are the protected rooms.
Yes. The safe rooms, if you're not from here, are so incredibly well done that what did we, in every one is too many. But what was it, 27, 28 people? And you could see them take, and like, guys, if you haven't seen these, they speed up when they hit the ground. And they are massive, taking out whole sides of high-rise apartment buildings. And most people would live. Yeah. And the few that don't, you're evaporated. So I'm like, okay, either way, you're going to be safe or you're not going to be around very quickly.
So you've taken it in your stride, more or less, since you've been here.
That was the short answer. Sorry to give you the long answer.
No, we want to hear the details.
And I moved furniture. I moved into like an apartment building. So like it's like a group room. And so I put like beanbag chairs in there. And because we ended up spending a lot of time, obviously, with the Iranian thing. Yeah.
You certainly did. And so, of course, you've also used your platform as an activist. You've raised your voice. You have such a strong platform as a well-known actress. Why was it important to you to do that?
I'm so proud of being Israeli. And like, I know it sounds incredibly cheesy, but Israel really did, and in a very literal way, save my life. And for the first little bit that I was here, because I came with a carry-on and so many insane things were happening. And that's the thing about, the States. Like, anyone can do anything to you and it just takes forever. And then, when you hear police say things to you like, oh, we didn't investigate because you're a Jew. I mean, that was actually said to my face. Wow. And it was wild. And as I was sobbing, I said, why? And he said, we thought you were doing it for the money. And I said, I was on the 2 most popular shows on TV for 20 years. It was my money. But even then, I'd prefer not to be murdered. And he said, you're a Jew. It's always about the money.
Wow. Shocking.
And that was in 2019. So I got a taste beforehand. And because every asset was frozen and everything, not there was much left after years and years of paying lawyers and this and that and not being able to work, right? Because
and they talk about push and pull when you move to Israel. So there really was a push, right? Israel's pulling you towards it,
right?
But there's also a push there,
right? There's that external force, and so. When I came here, and so I'm not kidding, I was angry for the first day that I came with a carry-on and nothing else. And I was like, oh, my house, like this. And then it just took me 1 second. That's how everybody came here. From the dawn of time, whether you were leaving Babylonian captivity, whether you were coming after, and like in the most horrific ways, like, okay, sure, you got freed after the Holocaust, but then for the next 3 years, you're stuck in these German camps, where you're barely getting anything until things are sorted out here. The day you get your statehood, you're attacked immediately. Everybody came with nothing, and everybody helped each other. And so to realize that I was no different than all of these other people, and it was going to be fine. It was amazing. And so I was here. I was here for a long time with absolutely nothing. And you start to learn these things that I hadn't learned in decades, like being humble and, having to ask for help. And I mean, even right now, you're going to laugh. My my cupboard is full of donated food. Like, for real.
From
Community,
community,
from community, all my friends. So I had a lot of friends that were with the American State Department, things like that, and so they were evacuated and they never came back. And they're like, here's all your food. I was like, sweet. And
yeah, Israel does community awfully well.
Really well. And it's a sense of, and it's really funny, I didn't understand, like to give you an example, like the pioneers that went across the West, right? I was like, what the hey, man? Like, oh, sure, like a great idea. I'm going to push a handcart over the rock. I'm like, who would do this, right? And now I get it, because the sense of solidarity and love for one another and this common purpose, I'm like, oh, that's how they did it. Mm-hmm. Because that's what it was done here. And so, like, using the platform right after, I mean, I've always been a Zionist. Always. All you have to do is have people in your family that didn't make it to know that we had to have a place to go. Mm-hmm. And then being here, you realize how much more important that was. And then after October 7th, and then most recently, I don't think people understand. To me, I feel, and this may be a bit dramatic, but I genuinely believe this. To me, it's Poland 1939. And if you don't make the decision, life will make it for you. And it's not the decision you would normally make. And so living in the ignorance of the very likely possibility that you may have nowhere to go, make the decision now. And so I'm trying to encourage people to make Aliyah. Trying to get truthful information out there is almost incredibly difficult, as you know.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, you know, you've been a TV detective, so maybe you can help me get to the bottom.
Just a TV lawyer.
Just a TV lawyer, a DA.
Yes.
Help me get to the bottom of this. The entertainment industry.
Oh, I cannot. Even the Jewish ones, you're like, are you serious? Like, I was just talking to the gang that was helping me, like, the new rabbi at my congregation in New York was just arrested for sitting in the street in Manhattan in a pro-Palestinian. I'm like, what the actual? So I'm going to go, if you don't mind, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here.
Let's do it.
Okay. Again, as someone that tends, again, to be more cerebral, I love facts. But at some point, we're all just talking amongst ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, I love Haviv Ratekur and Phil. Like, I love all these people. But, like, we're all just talking to ourselves. You know, like, I agree. And if you start excluding other people to some degree, it is just us talking to ourselves. And reason genuinely never convinced anything. And it never convinced anyone. And so what I want the people that are out there to know, if you're pro-Palestinian and you actually believe in helping the Palestinian people, you're not helping at all by supporting Hamas. You are literally subjugating the Palestinian people longer. By parroting their propaganda, you are prolonging their suffering, because the majority of their suffering comes from a war they didn't want and we didn't want. If they had not come in and massacred and slaughtered and butchered, I mean, I don't know what I would have to do if I was one of these families that has to decide whether they put out the photos of their slaughtered family members to help us, right? And Bibi, what you ever think about him or not, it's getting to the point where people are having to show these things. And it's almost 2 years too late. But again, I'm glad I didn't have to make the decision whether I had to show that. And so what they don't understand is every time they do that, every time they march, every time they repeat this bollocks, they are protracting a situation that becomes untenable, because as long as Hamas is in charge, there's never going to be peace. Almost every Israeli that exists wants peace. That's why we handed over the keys 20 years ago. That's why again and again and again and again we offered plans for a two-state solution. You know why they didn't want it? They don't want peace. They want our annihilation. And so even all these people, when you're asking, I'm like talking to them, when you're asking and chanting from the river to the sea, do you understand that almost 25% of Israeli citizens aren't Jewish? So does that mean you want to get rid of the 25% of Arab Israelis, Druze Israelis, Christian Israelis? Do they get to die too? Do they get to perish? That's the stated goal of Hamas. And they're the ones that have been subjugating their own people. Think of what they could have done with that money. Think of the schools, the education, and everything they got rid of. The more time and effort you spend in supporting a terrorist organization that uses their own people as human shields, whether you like Israel or not, whether you believe we should exist or not, whether you like Jews or not, you are literally adding to the Palestinians' suffering. And if you don't recognize that, you are the problem.
Well said. And to those kind of leading the charge within the entertainment industry, you know, I'm talking about the Susan Sarandons and the Mark Ruffalos and the Cynthia Nixons. We'll breathe for a moment.
Well, even that dude, right after October 7th, they made a movie about the Holocaust. And from the stage, as he won his Oscar, refuted his Judaism.
It's hard to understand that, how you even get to that place.
Part of it, and this is one thing I find incredibly interesting, they're not saying what we're saying. That news isn't even making it there. And part of it is that the media is so complicit in it, right? Because they started and they felt like they were on the side of righteousness. And now the sunk cost is so high that if they go, "Nah, we were wrong," right? They don't want to do that because they've invested so much into this narrative, even if it's untrue. And another thing people don't realize, just because something seems to make sense doesn't mean it's true. And it blows my mind how many people lack the critical thinking, even at the very least. So like even with my friends, my Jewish friends, my famous movie star Jewish friends who will not speak to me anymore. The last conversation we'd have with them, I'm like, "Hey guys, you think I'm smart?" Like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Do you think I'm nice?" "Yeah." "Do you think I'm generous and kind?" "Yes." "The most we know." I'm like, "Okay." "Do you think I live here?" "Yes." "Is it possible that I might know more than you about the situation?" Consider the possibility you might be wrong. Just consider it.
Important message that they should have a little bit of humility. We can only hope. I wanted to ask you, because
Sorry,
so
I get so intense
no,
about it. 'Cause I'm just like,
you're 100% right. I hope they listen. I hope they're watching, and I hope they listen. We're approaching a new academic year. We have many young people and students that are following Stand With Us, part of Stand With Us. What's your message to those young people who want to fight the good fight, who understand what Israel really is, but are facing an increasingly hostile atmosphere?
So an increasingly hostile atmosphere, and again, this is great. I feel like, hey, Hashem, you prepared me for all of this stuff, because I've lived through massive, incredibly hostile things. And what I would say is, and if you go everyone back to everyone, whether it's the Torah or the Tanakh or all the famous sages like Maimonides, like Rambam's one of my favorites, and to be Jewish is to be fearless. And one of the things about being the chosen people, it's not because you're better than everyone else and that kind of thing. No, you're chosen to be an example for other people. And you're chosen to be a light and an education and a way that other people can emulate, which means it's harder work. And as I've gotten older, and I'm sure you found this too, so unfortunate. You know when you get older and you're like, oh, that's so lame. I thought this was so different. The quality that is lacking most in humanity is courage. It bums me out so hard. I mean, like it really does. It bums me out so hard. And the other thing is that people are inherently lazy. So a lot of the people when we talk about, and we'll get back to the kid thing in a second, that want to just like, I want to pretend like I'm doing something good by marching instead of actually doing what would help the people because they're virtue signaling and they decided, okay, if I really did something, I may not be in the in-group anymore and it might take work, right? Like all things that are worthwhile takes effort. But to the kids, and this is the underlying motto of my life. The right thing to do and the smart thing to do are very rarely the same thing to do, but it never changes what the right thing to do is. And so right now, that gap between the smart thing to do, okay, take off your mezuzah, right? Hide your Magen David, like, she'll stop pretending. That would be the smart thing, in a lot of situations. Mm-hmm. But it's not the right thing to do. So be that light in the world. Be the one that's proud. If maybe that was the Ramban, if I'm not for me, who will be, mm-hmm. right? And just remember, one of the fun things, again, the chosen people means more work, right, as opposed to being special. But I always think of, when it was Elijah, no, it was Elijah that was talking, and his servant boy was incredibly afraid, right? Because there were armies coming against them that were more than they could tolerate. And he said, look. And it was angels and chariots of fire. And he said, more that be with us than they that be with them, even if you can't see them. You are supported, kids, by every ancestor. In all the funneling of time, where we were whittled down as a people to almost nothing, we always returned. And we returned better, and we're the light to the world and the education of the world and contributed to the world, and then back into the funnel. Don't be one of the people that lets us go back into the funnel. Be proud. And I know it can be really scary sometimes, but if you have that thing called courage that lacks, when the day comes when your life is one day over, you can be proud that when you get to the other side, that Hashem will say to you, my good and faithful servant, I'm proud of you. And that's worth it. It's worth it.
A beautiful and powerful message. We couldn't be prouder of you and your courage in taking your prominent position and speaking on behalf of all of us. So we thank you for that. May you have continued blessings in your life here in Israel, and only see all of us. May we only see a new year, a new Jewish year.
I know, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the apples and honey.
Peace. Lots to come.
Lots to come. Yeah, I hope so. Is there, and again, anything you guys need, and any other questions you may have, I'm open to all of them. But I will say this, coming here, even though it felt like I was being Jonah'd in the moment, that's what I call it, being Jonah'd, when you're like, I'm forced to go, earlier than I expected, has been the greatest blessing of my life. It has easily been the greatest blessing of my life, in a life full of miracles and blessings. And I would encourage anyone that's thinking about it, start. Come now. We all want you to come. And I would also say to the people that protest against us, in the most practical sort of way, if you don't think Israel should exist, stop being violent and mean to Jewish people everywhere, because you're just getting more of us here. So
Israel's only going to endure
right.
and flourish.
Absolutely.
Diane Neal, we couldn't be more thrilled to have had you with us. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much.